Welcome to Montana's Peer Network Recovery Talks. Today we are doing a panel focusing on the missing, murdered Indigenous people, relatives, movement, and I'm very delighted to introduce our guests today that are really leading the advocacy movement within our state and representing their tribal territories to the fullest. Why don't we just go around, start with Rhonda, and you each introduce yourself and share with us what it is you do.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Grant Connolly. I'm from Browning, the Blackfeet Nation. I became involved. It wasn't by choice in 2016 with, when my nephew Matthew Grant went missing and found murdered 3 weeks later. And it's now 7 years. My family and I are still seeking justice. I've been doing this for 7 years now, and just finally we decided to have our organization recognized by the Blackfeet tribe. And it was a struggle. At first they didn't want to accept us, but now they do. So we are known as, excuse me, we had to change our name. We changed it to Blackfeet Nation, SAR MMIP. So since we're affiliated with the tribe, we have to also use the Blackfeet tribe. Before it was To Medicine, SAR MMIP. And I am employed with the IHS here in Browning. I work with Hep C clinics. I also am a POS biller for pharmacy. And that is it.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you so much for sharing and for the work you do. Carolyn, would you like to share this?
My name is Carolyn DeFord. I am a Puyallup tribal member, an MMIWP family member, and advocate. My mother, Leona LeClaire Kinsey, went missing from La Grande, Oregon, October 25th, 1999, after she said that she was going to go meet a man named John at the grocery store. A couple of years later, in 2002, my cousin was answered the call of a friend who was experiencing domestic violence. And when she went to the friend's house to help her, the abuser, shots were fired and the abuser killed my cousin. She was shot in the back and died on the scene. And then, the effect that had on my family, it was before really MMIW was being recognized in the United States. So I didn't have a place to identify, a place to find resources or support or anything. And a lot of the cultural things that we experience in grief and in loss and in these the spiritual part of it, talking to non-natives about the spiritual effect and the visits and the dreams and the medicine and that kind of thing, people, non-natives don't get it. And so that kind of that was really a pivot point for me. In 2021, I was appointed to the Washington State MMIWP Task Force, and I'm currently co-chair of the Family Members Subcommittee. I'm a member of Washington Against Sexual Exploitation and the Native Protection Alliance, and a former board member for the Intertribal Coalition Against Violence and MMIW USA with Dwayne.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carolyn. I messed up the rotation. So, Dwayne, do you want to go next?
It's all right. Wayne Hasselhout. My name is Duanna Johnson. I am a tribal member of the Colville Tribe Lakes Band. I'm a disabled U.S. Navy veteran, single mom of 4. I'm also a DV and sexual assault survivor, as well as a trafficking survivor. I am the admin assistant and board secretary for MMIW USA. And I'm also an active advocate for MMIWP by speaking and tabling here in Southwest Washington and Northwest Oregon. Oh goodness, I'm an active member of 5 local boards here in Vancouver, Washington, and one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring this up is because the boards that I sit on are so important, not just for my own personal grounding and healing for myself and my family, but to be able to have my seat at the table as a survivor, to get our voices heard in a good way. I sit on the Vancouver Affordable Housing Board.
Rutherford,
I sit on the Chiefs Diversity and Advisory Team for Vancouver Police Department. I sit on the ESD 112 Native Parent and Community Advisory Team. And again, I'm on the I'm the secretary for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women USA. I got in touch with Deborah through a friend of mine. Deborah was our founder after I was assaulted in 2017. I'm also on the Oregon Department of Transportation, Equity and Mobility and Accountability Commission. And I actively participate in the following BIPOC leadership and advocacy groups. And again, this is like really important to me that I'm being seen, you know, as far as like being a survivor goes, so that, you know, I'm able to reach out to other women and positively impact their lives, you know, as well as our two-spirited individuals. I am an alumni of Southwest Washington Equity Commission, SAGE. I'm a SAGE cohort from their leadership program of 2022-2023. I am the lead for the 49th Legislative District here in Washington State for Low Income Housing Alliance. And I'm also the 49th District Southwest Washington Advocacy Group. Yeah, that was long-winded and I apologize, but all of those are super important. And, you know, it's like without having safe housing, without having a safe, you know, just like Carolyn had mentioned, you know, the spiritualness of our healing journeys after these things have happened, whether or not they happened directly to us or we were affected through somebody that happened to. The trauma is still huge, and there isn't very many outlets for trauma-informed care as far as doing that with an Indigenous lens in a good way. That needs to change. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all your work and for being a voice for survivors and our Indigenous folks. I really appreciate you being here, all of you. And then it's always good to have an Indigenous male figure with us too. So Paul, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Paul Frank. I'm from the Yakama Nation, and I live in Fort Hall, Idaho. And I got involved with this not only from my own personal experiences of trauma and substance abuse and intergenerational trauma, but learning along the ways with friends and family who've come across this. and been in searches, before they were even considered searches, I guess you could say, because they were done discreetly, and because nowadays they say you got to contact the law enforcement, and we were just doing them. And the first one that we done was in Kent in 2009, Kent, Washington. And then several others after that, but we didn't really get, more depth with it until 2019 over here, and our group's called Carrying the Message. And we touch everything. I mean, I have a background in chemical dependency. I was a counselor in Washington, and over here I continued on Zoom with recovery classes for those trying to find recovery and sobriety and healing from trauma and domestic violence and everything you can think of. And the challenges I come across, it's like how they say let's say the tables have turned. How women had a hard
Let
time
me
in the
look.
past getting uh,
Let me put this
certain
on
positions
mute.
and jobs. Not now, it's like me. I've tried to reach out to other groups, and majority are women, and I get responses like, "Who are you?" It's like, and you know, so I step away. I don't want to push that issue, and but I mean, I keep going in other areas. I continue to connect with those who are trying to do the same thing that we're doing. Uh, we work intensely. We have meetings with those of family and those who have had, closure. They still come to our meetings, and we try to open it up for others who are, out there trying to find a place. Just as Carolyn says, I like how she has hers too. The talking circle. We still have one that we've done, and it was over 8 hours. People from all over that just didn't have. They still don't have no closure today, or no justice today. And this was in 2020. So I mean, it's just I'm starting to see a huge correlation of intergenerational trauma, addiction, and everything else leading to all connecting to it all. It's just I continue to do what I can, and work in every form and fashion with all this stuff. Our group loves to go to all these conferences and be a part of something that is a collective whole of healing and being able to be of service. I'm at work too right now. So if you hear me go off, then they're calling for me. So it's a job that's very busy sometimes, and today might be busy. Usually it was busy till I got here, but um, but regardless, I thank you for having this opportunity and to share and being willing to hear everybody's story and experience in this, because it is intense and it is hard work. It's not for the soft-hearted, kind-hearted. It's very intense work. And um, I appreciate being here. So thank you, and I think that's majority of it.
Well, thank you so much, Paul. And I was just talking to somebody yesterday how important it is that our Indigenous men step forward and really, set the pace and be that example. And you definitely are that. So thank you so much for being here and sharing. And so I'll go into my first question. So what has been something that's been, of course, a struggle, something that's, and of course we probably know, but a lot of our viewers, a lot of the rest of the world doesn't know a whole lot about this. I still get asked, what is MMIP, that sort of thing. And so, just sharing some of the struggles there are within this work, and also being an Indigenous leader doing this work. And then what is something positive as well? So let's go with the rotation we first started out with before I screwed it up. Miss Carolyn, could you start us out, please?
This is a good question. It took me a little bit to find some positives, but negative was first the emotional roller coaster and navigating those strong feelings that come with this heavy work, frustration, fear, bringing up my own memories, obligation to our families and community, and that sense of responsibility and anger when it isn't moving the way it needs to, the way you want it to, the way we imagine partnerships happening, joy, relief, gratitude. It's just an up and down, and guilt. We have that sense of I didn't do enough, I need to do more, and I could have done this, I should have done that, I didn't say goodbye. Navigating those, every time I work with a family, I go back somehow and relive a part of my initial journey. Navigating those investigative resources, the different laws across states, cities, counties, those jurisdictional complexities, the processes that different programs that we need to rely on have, and their policies. Sometimes that's one of the biggest hoops. Somebody might have a database that they could check and see if, help us build the timeline of events of where our person was. Whether that's a motel being able to say, yeah, the last time we stayed here was September 2020, then I know, okay, they haven't been in, just it really helps to connect those dots. I think one of the biggest ones is the silos within our program services. It's a really broad, the risk factors and vulnerabilities are very broad. And like Duana mentioned, doing housing, stable housing being critical, and the well-being and stability of our families, recovery, healing from that trauma, child welfare, poverty, opportunity, domestic violence and sexual assault, navigating the criminal justice system, bringing all of those to the table in one, because, whether it's tribal or non-tribal, but we all have a role. All of our programs have a role in addressing these vulnerabilities and risk factors. And for all of us, if we're providing services in our general community, in our tribal community, or as service providers, doesn't matter what we do, our goal is for the well-being of our people, which ultimately is to prevent hurt and harm, and to prevent our people from going missing or being murdered. And that needs to be something. It seems like it would be very easy to cooperate and collaborate and partner and help each other. But like Paul said, sometimes you get who are you? What do you want? Doors shut. So breaking down those silos and leveraging resources is a challenge sometimes. And
Thank
then
you, Carolyn. Oh, sorry.
First, reunifications. When we can reunify a family, let them put eyes and ears on their loved one after that intense anxiety and fear. That's probably the biggest positive, the biggest reward. Seeing policy and system change, building relationships, and seeing these programs that we've fought the system against, to break down those silos, that is rewarding. Every time we get someone at the table, it's a celebration. And all of that, the family reunifications, those are healing. But making family, creating family out of MMIP families, we all carry something very unique. And you can have a bond and a connection with each other that you can't with even family, my own family members sometimes who weren't connected to my mom or weren't as affected by this issue as I was. But other MMIWP family members becoming my family, feeling like my family too. And that healing, like the goal is all just to heal and quit perpetuating the trauma.
Thank you so much. Powerful message, and I appreciate your outlook, your perspective. Definitely those that have gone through it, whether surviving family members or survivors themselves, are definitely, I believe, the true experts. And as I heard on here, we deserve a seat at the table. And so thank you for sharing. Rhonda, would you like to go next? I'm going to try to stick to the original rotation.
Okay. I noticed one of the struggles that I've had being an advocate, working with I always tell my family, I said, the life I lead it's so much trauma, and every day here on a reservation, there's something taking place. Just recently, since I was in Arizona, we've had 3 more murders here on a reservation, and it don't seem to be getting any better. And it's just kind of disheartening because we have so many broken family members here on a reservation, and I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. None of us are accomplishing. But I did notice that since we started our group, we have more and more people opening up. Before, they would not talk about their loss. They didn't feel like there was anyone there to listen, and because they're rejected by the law enforcement, and so many, like saying that they're working on individual case and actually they were not. And like so many, I've mentioned this so many times, we've had so many unsolved murders here on a reservation, and it's just a struggle. Like I said, we're not accomplishing nothing because more and more each day there's violence. And when Matthew went missing, we had a hard time having any reaching out to us to help us. He was missing like for 3 weeks, and we didn't have law enforcement there. And then so was this tribal jurisdictions of, the sheriff, they don't have jurisdiction here, and it was just hard. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. This is all a process, and we're all here supporting you, and you share what you can. Thank you so much, Rhonda, and I'm so grateful that we met, our paths crossed, and meeting all of you. I think I'm one of those people, I feel like, paths cross for a reason, and we're all here to support one another in the work we do, and I'm really grateful for what you do and for organizing this panel today too.
Yeah,
Wait.
I think the only positive thing I can say that really come of this is that people are opening up to us, gives them hope that maybe someday, just someday, they may see justice. We don't plan to, that's like I always tell them, we're not going to go away. This makes us stronger.
That's right. They're gonna come and talk to you about things they're not gonna go and talk to law enforcement about. And so you being there, your force is so important for the Blackfeet tribe and for all over. You're setting an example.
Just wish I could do more. I feel like I'm not doing anything or accomplishing nothing. I think until our law enforcement, everything they change. Like a lot of them, they're not qualified. A lot of our, the police, they're when they're called upon I'm sorry, I can't do this right now.
That's okay. And just to add to that, from my knowledge, it's who's related to who gets positions, and they aren't always qualified. And the follow through and the justice for our own people, so supporting and being law enforcement for our own people, it's lacking in so many ways. And so I think we all understand that piece of it, and you're not alone. Duena, would you like to go next? We'll come back
Sure.
around.
Yeah, and Rhonda, I totally hear you. It I hear the pain in your voice, and it's like I'm so happy that we met today, and I just want to reach out to you and let you know that you're not alone. So thank you for sharing that, even though it was hard.
Thank
I
you.
see you. It's like I wanted to start with the negative, if that's okay, just to get that out of the way. I know for me, it's right along with Rhonda, it's the feeling of not being taken seriously by law enforcement. I know with me, I grew up off the reservation. I grew up in foster care. And so it's like I don't know that, a lot of the ins and outs and the struggles from that piece of things, but I do know is how I was treated. And me really wanted to make sure that I helped bridge that gap of just the not being seen, or when we are seen, we're told to go home. Why don't you just go home? Well, where's your tribe? Those kind of things. And just I find myself, even like with at the Chiefs Diversity and Advisory Team, I'm the only Native at the table. And I'm going to make sure that I'm heard at every meeting, that our voices of concern are being there and loud. And, the other part too is just coming up against a lot of lateral violence from other people in this movement. It's like all our traumas are not one size fits all. And we should be treating each other with grace and respect. And, you know, it's like incredibly healing for me to see Paul. You know, yeah, even as, you know, a survivor of sexual assault and trafficking, to see one of our Indigenous brothers, you know, help in this walk and talk in such a good way is incredibly healing. And you know, it's like to be able to stop that lateral violence that we, you know, and I'm gonna say I'm guilty of that too. I am, stemming from my own traumas, but to have, you know, that male representation is huge because they are affected too, you know, and they, you know, we should be more welcoming. So thank you, Paul, if you're listening. um, and just as far as like the positives go, is just seeing that, you know, like the little victories that we get, you know, like having my voice heard here in Washington State by the legislators and them passing the bill on the cold case files.
Huh?
You know,
You did
you know,
already?
that was a small victory, but it was a step in the right direction. And you know, my children getting to see me make a positive difference, because I am reaching back and helping other victims. And that's been incredibly healing to me. You know, helping other victims get home and bridge that gap from being a victim to survivor. So yeah.
Thank you so much. And so much of what you have to say is so validating. Um, and all of you so real. It gives it somebody like myself, and I know other viewers, domestic violence, to have somebody out there representing us is so important. Gives us hope out here. Oh, there we go. That's what I get for going on and on. Paul, would you like to go next?
Yes, what was the second one? I'm sorry.
That's okay. What have been or what has been, and share what you want, negatives and positives within this work that you're doing.
All right. You want the long version or the short version? You want the truth or the lie? That's kidding.
Always the truth.
Yes. I love what I heard already. You know, a lot of that stuff because we come across it too, and my wife does all the sides of the other parts, but I take care of the other starts where sometimes I go out and you know, ask questions to the community. But another part of this too is, you know, you really can't see it unless you're really interactive in the community. You know, I mean, people come to us because, you know, like Rhonda shared about, you know, when they find out something, it brings some sort of safe haven, you know, some sort of security. And because we started out mostly with recovery and sobriety and healing. And it branched out in this because it was, you know, becoming eminent and prominent in the area. And yeah, a lot of it is the law enforcement where they just don't care, you know. I mean, going to council, you know, and council gives them a little nudge and they're like, yeah, okay, do the bare minimum, job security. retired on duty, you know. And not only that, there were times where I would get out there and ask, and I'd go and go back and say, hey, there's this and this and this. And, you know, let them know. And they're like, okay, well, we can't force them to talk. I'm like, are you serious? This is a death. And you can't force nobody to talk over death. I mean, they create these, you know, falsified lies, you know, and statutes and stuff. And I was like, okay, let me see it. Well, you got to go and we're going to arrest you. I said, go ahead. You know, and I don't care. And then on another part, you know, we had this reason one that's still seeking justice, where we, you know, I tried to get a hold of the mayors of both Chubbuck and Pocatello, and they would not meet with me, you know, or us for that fact. And we're said, how come? How come you guys don't want to meet with us? And well, they're busy. I said, well, how are you busy for, you know, let's say kind of like coming together and working together to understand, you know, because it involved their detectives, because there was controversy over, you know, checkerboard jurisdiction. And so it was still up in the air, but then they passed it to, you know, the city detective, when it should have been clearly FBI. But regardless, he just put it non, you know, substantial, or, you know, just undisclosed. And this young lady was naked in the canal. And then he would communicate with the family and be saying, you know, emotionally aggressive to the younger sister or the older sister. And so I called, and because I called the executives. I do all that work, you know, I do all that where it's communication, because there's still that today where it's sexism, where, you know, the hierarchies or the titles, where, you know, when it's a woman, they become more abrasive, but knowing that it's a male, and they're like, you know, they're hesitant to, until it becomes, you know, the intimidation factors. But these are the things that, you know, come across quite a bit, you know, and it's hard. We went to one in Nevada, and I loved how they implemented a panel of the FBI and investigators, and, you know, and we had a good talk with them. And had they not been there and we not been there, there wouldn't have been closure on another one, because the main guy, we kept telling him, hey, this individual is involved. And they're like, yeah, but he won't talk to us because the tribal police won't go and get him, or, you know, take the FBI there. And when they do knock, and then they say, they yell through the door, we don't want to talk. And the tribal police tells the FBI, okay, they don't want to talk, we got to go. I mean, that is the most stupidest, you know, I don't understand that. This young lady's dead, and then yet, you know, it just gets me crazy, you know. It's frustrating. I mean, these are lives, and these people are making up stuff, and they cover it up. And also, that lateral violence is huge too. You know, we have other programs that won't work with us, or, you know, through the tribe, and you know, they laugh and joke around and say, oh, you guys aren't qualified, but nobody's ever asked us what we do. Or, you know, it's like, but I mean, we don't, you know, uh, go after that. We just leave them alone then, because, and these are DV programs. I mean, I don't understand that. You know, I mean, we work with the people almost 24/7. If they call us, we'll go and help. We'll do what we can. You know, we'll bring comfort and closure. We've been the domestic violence calls. They called us over the police. They called us over the DV program. You know, and that's the results. I mean, they feel the love, the closure, the caring. I mean, you know, and that's what it's about for us. I mean, we're there all the time. I mean, we let everybody know, even people we don't know, not non-natives. I see them, I'll pull over and talk to them, and they're like, "What church are you from?" I'm not from a church, you know. And I said, I'm like, "Well, God bless you." You know, I mean, we put everything into this, you know. I mean, because this is a passion, you know, with compassion, but not only that, with healing, because I could not be doing this if I still had parts unhealed. I couldn't be strong enough. I couldn't be, you know, in in all areas that are necessary and beneficial to the movement, to what it is that, you know, we want to, you know, show. And we've even invited coroners, because when we were doing a awareness at the site where the young lady was found, a coroner turned around, came back and talked to me and talked to us. And then I talked to him and I said, I want you at the meetings too, because, you know, we want coroners to be held accountable too, you know, because some of them are following these detectives and a lot of them are untrained or, you know, not qualified either, even though that's not lateral violence. But, you know, um, they just don't care. There should be reprimand stipulations, or, you know, all these things that should be mandated or created, because there's a lot of, you know, falling through the cracks, you know, but yet they want us to follow the red tape, you know, these checkerboard jurisdictions, but yet they get away with all these things. And it's like, how is that even possible? I mean, it's a joke. And it yeah, it gets very frustrating, you know. And I mean, we just keep doing what we got to do, you know. And I appreciate everybody out there that's doing this as well, you know, because like I said, it's not, you know, the most. I mean, who grows up and says, "Hey, I want to be an advocate. I want to be this. I want to be that." Uh, I've had multiple family members and family, you know, all succumb to these kind of things, and it's heart wrenching, you know. And I mean, I'm grateful that I get to be a part of something that's to improve instead of tear apart. Um, we'll keep doing what we do, you know, and I appreciate everybody again, all of you, for what you do, and I thank all of you and love all of you, you know, and prayers to you and your walk, and everyone in your groups. And the positives, yeah, I get to give something back instead of take it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And so we'll go into our last question. Before I have you all share how to contact you if people want to, you know, reach out, volunteer, those sorts of things. But, you know, a big piece of this, you know, organizationally and in the government is being able to fund programs, or, you know, get coalitions together and develop resources like we're talking about. And I thought I'd kind of throw a curveball in there. This last question is, if given the chance at having the resources, the support, the funding needed, what is an initiative or work that you would love to start or grow, if that makes sense? Carolyn, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, thank you for that question. This was probably the hardest one, because I had to daydream for a minute. But before I go, I have a huge amount of love for everybody on this panel and the work that they do and the ways that they have touched my life with their kindness and inclusivity. But the amount of humility it takes to go into these not safe spaces, whether that's police office, law enforcement, other programs, to be told you're not qualified to do this work, to, the amount of humility it takes to do that and to answer the phone when you're called, to put your ego aside, and work for the people, just the people, not for recognition or clout or credit or the thank you is knowing that you're doing what needs to be done, and that the families need it. And if you don't do it, who will? But it takes a great amount of humility. And I was thinking about that when Paul was talking, because you really have to let your ego go, and take the lateral balance and try and be better than that. And it can be really hard sometimes because it hurts, and when we hurt, we want to, it's natural to express that in unhealthy ways sometimes. But so if I could have any resources, the first thing I was thinking, and kind of laughed about, but a hacker. I need a hacker or 5, a whole team of hackers, because we can't look at phone records. It's dang near an act of Congress to get phone records, to get warrants, to have people extradited and brought back. There's so much that we need to be able to do as far as databases and computers that we just can't. Social media, the dark web and all of the ugly stuff out there. But to fund thorough investigations from the moment the report is filed. We wouldn't need cold case investigators if we did the job right the first time, and acted within the first, immediately, immediate response. I think all of our law enforcement agencies need trained advocates, who are trained in trauma and ambiguous loss and that complex grief. You're taking on so much when somebody goes missing, not only the anxiety and the constant anxiety, the constant imagery of what possibly happened, or your greatest fears playing out in your head that you can't shut off, and having to know all of this information, how to navigate law enforcement, but also that it really isn't like we expect it to be. Like, for example, as far as that is, I had this naive, disillusioned idea of what law enforcement would do when I filed my mom's police report. And every family, we've all said it, like Rhonda, you call them and they don't do anything. But you think, you're not crying wolf. It's the last thing we want to do is call the police. There's never been a good thing that has come from the police being at my home, and now I have to call them. And you're learning that it's not what you think it would be, and so that learning curve, taking on all of those new responsibilities now, if you've got children that are left behind, or you have to step into a different role in your family as the caregiver of your family, or the matriarch or the patriarch of your family, dealing with your own grief and trying to deal with the grief of the people you love, and search and sleep and take care of, we need advocates and people to be able to help families navigate that journey from the beginning into, God forbid, it becomes a long-term cold case. Because even at 24 years, something can happen and I'm at day 1 again. Advocates, good advocates, and resources to support the young people that are left behind and their caregivers, so that they don't have to struggle and that they can just heal. They can just heal. They can search, just those resources for that. And I think, yeah, I'm sure somebody else will say something. Let me get that too. But those are the main off the top of my head.
Thank you. Rhonda, would you like to share, or you want me to go to Duena? I think you're on mute. We'll go for a car ride with you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, what was the question again?
A big piece of uh, what's missing and what we need within this work, with any work, is definitely like funding and resources to support, what you're doing.
Oh, yes.
If you had that, if that wasn't a barrier, what is an initiative or a project or something that you're already doing that you'd want to grow or start?
This is linked to Caroline. Really, we do need advocates, somebody that specializes in behavioral health. Like right now, the families that I'm dealing with, they're turning on one another, blaming, pointing fingers, and if she would have did this, she'd be alive, And it's heartbreaking just to sit back and listen to them argue and watch them argue and blame one another when actually, it had nothing to do with the family member. It was the perpetrator themselves that actually committed this crime, and nothing being done. They still walk free, and just opens the door for other, like I said, murders, whatnot. And that's one thing that we do need. And we need to all start a healing process. It's kind of hard to do when we're still seeking justice for our loved ones. And like what I've been wishing for and hoping for, if I did have the funding, like we have several cold cases we'd like to reopen. I have an individual that's working on some of them. And what she is trying to do and what we want to do is try to have our own crime lab on a reservation, because we have so many, all of them. We don't have nothing on the reservations. It's just off the reservation. And when it comes to Native Americans, we're always last. And DNA really plays a big factor in everything. And it's the thing that they don't utilize it because it's expensive. And that's one thing that I'd like to look into, is open and cold cases, and hopefully that they did the evidence secure it. Hopefully they didn't destroy the evidence, because I've heard that's been taking place. A lot of evidence has been destroyed. And another thing that I noticed too, everything stems from drugs and alcohol. And what I was thinking, how can we break this cycle? What can we do? It's getting worse instead of better. And I think the only way we could do this is start working with the younger generation. Give them more, what I'd like to do is more activities for them, like weekends. Like here, there's nothing. We don't have nothing for them. We've had, I want to say, within this past year, we've had over 20 some suicides. And just keeping them busy, inactive, and they also counseling, because they come from dysfunction, so many dysfunctional families here. And that's the only thing I think we can break the cycle, is to help guide them in the right direction. And again, we need counselors to help do that. And let me see what else. There was something else. I'm sorry, I can't think of it right now. And thank you for that. That's a good question.
Thank you, Rhonda. Yeah, definitely something that I too have been pondering on and kind of looking into as a youth committee and elder advisory council, those sorts of things, because we all need to, need that accountability, but that next generation is you know, those are our leaders. And they're so wise too, you know. So thank you, Rhonda. And next, Duana.
Yeah, well, for me, it would definitely be data help. Like, and more specifically, where the person was found, to be able to track that, to find out and track and be able to document the outcome of how they were found, and that to include where, just so that, you know, we can like find patterns and help stop this genocide of our people. You know, and as well, it's like Rhonda and Carolyn both touched on this, was trauma informed care training for advocates that want to help. And this is before, during, and after. We along with dealing with our own traumas of what happened to us as, you know, as survivors, and seeing and hearing and helping these hurting families. It does open wounds quite regularly, and be able to have access to that Indigenous lens of informed care is so needed. And also to have regular collaborative trainings with law enforcement, and this is state, local, and on the federal level, by victims and, you know, by survivors, from a survivor's victim survivor point of view, so that they are being trained in a way where they are seeing us and hearing us, instead of us just being lumped into this category of MMIWP. You know, we're not just an acronym. We're not extinct. We're still here. See us. And to be able to get into schools, and to teach our young people prevention, whether that be prevention from substance abuse, prevention from bullying, lateral violence, to be able to create safe spaces with traditionally, culturally relevant activities for our youth that may not be getting that from any other source, especially with those that are on, you know, living off the reservation and in urbanized settings. And to be able to afford aid for searches and rescue missions, as well as for funerals for these hurting families. You know, it's hard to have that call come in and have to tell these hurting families we don't have the funds, and have to turn them away. It's agonizing, and it hurts me to my core. You know, one of the things that I am working on that I would just, I'm working really hard on finding the funding for, is creating an and to operate a safe long-term housing, temporary housing, with being able to provide trauma therapy. And this is in a good way, in our Indigenous ways, not just one tribe specific, but in our tribal lens, we need to be able to help our people heal from their trauma, be it from being trafficked, and as a DV and sexual abuse survivor like myself, that we'll be able to address these next issues that I'm going to bring up. Just housing, holistic healing, having access to medicines, sweat lodges, and cultural activities, bringing it back to like beading, regalia, drum making, talking circles. I so appreciate Carolyn for the, implementing the talking circles, because those have been incredibly healing. And being able to have a space where we can get access to traditional foods, growing it and being able to utilize it and use it for food subsistence. I'm working really hard on obtaining a 501c3. I just need help getting the land to do that. you know, so yeah, that's my answer to number 3.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to tell you, I thought about it when you're just talking, when you said, on the last answer, you said a little movement, and that's huge. Getting law changed and, being that voice for survivors is so important. Because, for myself, I never seen that. And the power of hearing it, that experience coming from somebody else, and that connection that could happen, and hearing it from somebody that looks similar to myself, that's so important. So thank you. Paul.
That's the main reason why I do this work, Leah.
Well, thank you so much. We'll have to connect after this too, with all of you. Paul, would you like to go next?
Yes. I would like a lot, but we gotta go little by little to work for it. Most of it was said too. Accountability to law enforcement, because they seem to get away with just their word against ours, not only as advocates but as family members, and it doesn't get nowhere. As well as the coroners, to either mandate trainings with everybody said it already, so I'm going to say it again. Mandate trainings for the law enforcement, the collaborations, the intercommunications, the working together, because a lot of that is the stuff that stops. Like Matthew Bronco, it's just ongoing with controversial and checkerboard jurisdiction, and the cops keep dropping the ball, and the FBI and the detectives, and nobody wants to do nothing, and they keep saying we're trying, and I can only imagine, not as a mother but as a father, not seeing my child and for years, or my mother or whoever, for years and years, and no answers. It's like, how is that even possible? And that would be it. The accountability to the law enforcement, and the coroners. And on the other side of it, where it'd be positive, the if funding was no problem, I'd be creating sobriety conferences and awarenesses in every reservation. That's something I would love to do. We've done it on 13 different reservations, actually 14 in 2 cities. Yeah. So, being in that area, and what Dewana mentioned is what we implemented in our, you know, we teach them talking circles, within the home that's still, because a lot of them, didn't have teachings or, don't understand culture because we're grassroots as well. We implement a lot of things, and do in homes, it's like, because one of the other things is, it's we hear when we try to work with other agencies is, no, we don't work on weekends, we don't work after 5. And that's one I don't resonate with, because a lot of this stuff happens after hours and on weekends, so, but that's just me, I mean, the work for us is when the people need us or, there's a need, creator opens the door and lets us walk in. So yeah, that's one of them. I mean, because, one of the things that we learned is, those prayer walks, it rattled the cage for, you know, um, for those that were guilty. And then they all start talking and they all got drunk and all start telling on each other. And pretty soon they all got caught. And it was from the prayer walk. We've done numerous prayer walks. And that's another one we do is prayer walks for, those that are missing in those areas. If funding was no problem, yeah, that would be those. That would be the goal, to, you know, because there's a lot of times where we done it out of our own pocket, and it was just a passion, so there you go in a nutshell, I'm more than welcoming all those if you have friends and family members that can, that want to talk, they can call me. Like I said, I've worked with many people, thousands and thousands of hours in alcohol and addiction, drugs, uh, and cultural and grassroots. I don't always have to put counselor behind my name, and I don't like to. It's basically, uh, I always tell people if you don't think I know what I'm talking about, come to my class and we'll see. You can challenge me, Dusky, because I do them every night, on Zoom, and I have been for the last 3 years on Zoom every night, every day. And starts at 9 o'clock Mountain Time, goes until we're done. Sometimes it's 11 or 12 at night. So yeah, that's about it, on my part. So again, I thank you all and thank you for all your work and prayers and love you all. Appreciate you all. And I'm always here too if you ever need to talk, or ear to bend, a sounding board. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. And thank you to all of you. And I just want to give you all a chance to share with our viewers, listeners, because we are on multiple platforms for podcasts and, YouTube visual and listening. Pretty soon we'll have more types of be 4D. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I want you all to have a chance to share how to contact you if people are interested in maybe volunteering or even donating, joining your cause. And so that's a big piece of this, is just really being able to connect the dots. And my prayers are that, who needs to be hearing or seeing this is, and that they're getting knowledge that's important, and we're able to connect those that can be helpful and are in need. And so Rhonda, why don't we start with, there I go, messing up the rotation. We gotta decolonize the rotation too. Just kidding. Rhonda, do you want to go first and then we'll go around?
Wait, no, my dear, someone's gonna be getting in. Could you have someone go first?
You bet. Carolyn.
How to support, was that the question? Offer
If somebody wants to contact you to either donate, help with your cause, maybe in need, and then also when we provide this on YouTube or the podcast platform, we'll make sure to add links if there's websites, phone numbers, names. I'll get all of that from you guys too.
Okay. I can be reached on a couple different ways, social media, on my personal page. My mom's page is on Facebook, finding
Coming?
the
Good.
fundraisers and just call outs for assistance for advertising most recently. But we're going to be having her 20th anniversary or 25th memorial next year, and we want to update her reward. So we'll be calling out and asking anybody who would like to help with that, inviting them to help. So Facebook, finding Leona Kinsey or Carolyn DeFord. I also have a Facebook page called Missing and Murdered Native Americans, and it's ran by myself and Mona Sespi from California. We're both MMIWP family members, and Mona is, I swear, she's Indian Country's auntie. She's everywhere. She exudes so much love and dedication to our families. I have a PayPal attached to that page, and we support families when we can, donating to their searches or their vigils, memorials, Christmas, anything that the families may need or that they're fundraising for. Sometimes that's simply to pay rent because you have to take time off work to go search. And let's see, MMIW USA as well. I work with them, so funding to that organization, we can use that to provide direct services to families. And Innovations Human Trafficking Collaborative, they're another 501c3 that's located here, and they if our people are missing and being exploited. And so they also can help us find them, but also in the aftercare and making sure that they're receiving holistic and trauma-informed care that lets them exercise their self-sovereignty. I think those are, those are all some of the best ways, those are the organizations. Innovations and MMIW USA are the organizations that generally will have some financial or resources for families that I work with. And then my mom's page.
Thank you so much, and we'll get all of that. Get all of that either text or on here, and make sure to add it all to this too. Rhonda, are you ready to share your information?
Yes, thank you. I had to pick up my nephew. I'm still driving, but trying to talk and drive at the same time is kind of difficult for me. I'm not a multi-factor anymore. But anyway, what I've been doing lately, and I haven't really mentioned that, is that we also have like when an individual walks away from a treatment center, I guess you want to call urban searching for individuals. And we did recover like 6 individuals so far: Spokane, Billings, Missoula, Bozeman. And what it is too is also the funding of trying to help these individuals, these families. And also for us, we just been using out of pocket because we don't have additional funding now because we're just starting a nonprofit and it's a 501, I want to say C3. And I could be reached on Facebook, which is Blackbeat Nation MMIP, and also my Facebook, which is Rhonda Grant Connolly. And also I have a PayPal, and I want to say, is it called Venmo? Venmo? I'm not quite sure, right? I think that's how you pronounce it. And
Yeah.
also I have an email, which is Rhonda Connolly 62 at gmail.com, if I'm not mistaken. Goodness, I hope I have that right.
If you don't, I have it. And so when I go to share it,
Okay. I think that is it at this time. Thank you.
thank you so much, Rhonda. And again, thank you so much for being a big piece of really putting this together and getting this master alliance together, really. So I appreciate you very much and look forward to connecting in the future as well.
There are a bunch of, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Brenda.
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank all of them for what they do. Very extraordinary people. I've known Caroline, I met her, oh goodness, I can't recall. Seems like it's been like maybe 3 or 4 years now, maybe not even that long. And Duana, thank you for what you do. And Paul, thank you. It's not easy doing what we do. Like I said, it's a dark world that we live in, and it's hard trying to help others when I say I can't even help myself. But all we can do is just keep moving forward and hope for the best, and hopefully the law changes. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda, and thanks for being that example for others. And I really truly believe in such a thing as wounded healers. And we can connect with individuals on levels that we can learn. And in a book, books are good too, but you know what I mean. So I really appreciate what you do and for your time. Miss Duena, I know we have your info here, but I just want to give you a chance to share any last shares as well.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me here. Yeah, I don't really know where to go from there other than just, I'm grateful to be in this space with you all. And just solidifying the fact that, we're not fighting this fight alone. And to be able to just put the word out, as far as getting help for people, whether it be people donating to MMIW USA, or, one of the other people here. It's so important because, it's like in this colonized country we live in, we can't do this without funding, unfortunately. And you know, it is hard. I know, speaking from, you know, my administrative assistant end of things, there have been times where our team has or had foregone getting paid so that we could help families. A lot of us right now are volunteering our services right now because we've come up on not having enough funds to do that, and we've had to choose to either help families that we serve or get paid. And you know, it's like that has, you know, it's kind of been becoming the norm. It's like, you know, MMIW and MMIWP has been a hot topic for a while. And then now all of a sudden it's like people aren't as engaged as they were a year or two ago. And unfortunately, you know, there's still being victims being made, and there's still help and aid that is needed, so needed. So if you know, anybody who's listening, if you don't donate to MMIW USA, please donate to one of these other causes. And especially search out your own MMIW and MMIWP organizations in your own area. It's the grassroots. Those entities are powerful, and being able to have boots on the ground with family, with those loved ones that have been affected, is so necessary. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you're right, a lot of us doing this work, to be paid in it is like amazing. But we do it because we're passionate, and it's part of our journey. So thank you for highlighting that. Paul, why don't you
So I can get out the way.
finish us off
Thank you.
here? Oh. Paul, are you there? Are you available to any last words? And we'll make sure to share you and your wife's information too when we share this, so people can contact you.
Okay, and give me a couple minutes, please.
Yeah, you bet.
You're muted.
My mouth just moving. I'm like, all right, I'll take this time to talk. No. I'll take this time to just again offer my gratitude. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join on this. And you can't really put a time limit on things like this. You just gotta let it flow, and it turns out the way it's supposed to. And you know, thank you for all your courageous work. And one similar thread I kept hearing on here is that, you know, we were each impacted by this crisis, by the crisis, and this is nothing new, right? This has been going on for, you know, a lot more longer than a lot of the awareness has been coming out. But I'm grateful that awareness piece is there. But thank you for your work, because I know it's not easy. It takes a lot of courage and strength, humility, and you know, sometimes it feels like we take a step forward to get knocked back 4, and we can feel very siloed and alone in this. But I think this is a perfect
Message your
example
mom and
of-
I'm telling.
perfect example of why we need to continue to do this work and that we're not alone. That's my little spiel, and I'll pass it over to Paul.
All right, thank you. I don't know all that stuff, the Venmo and whatever else. My wife's the one that does that, so maybe I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, if there's want to contact me, I have an email, PWHIT, E as an eagle, E as an eagle, Frank at yahoo.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Paul Frank. And my phone number is 208-530-3748. And if there's any donations, then it could be also sent to 41 North Mission Road, Apartment 10, Pocatello, Idaho, 83202. And again, I thank all of you for the work, your heart, your passion, your drive. And remember to stay strong and keep healing. I know it's tough. So I thank you all. Appreciate you all again and love you all. So thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I don't want to take up any more of your time. Thank you to our watchers, our listeners, whatever platform it is that you're seeing or hearing us on. Be sure to check out the links that will be with this video or podcast, whichever it is that you're listening or seeing. And make sure you tune in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together, for bringing us all together. I read a quote a while back that said, you can only heal Indigenous wounds and Indigenous trauma with Indigenous healing and Indigenous medicine. And that comes from all directions. We need that healing in housing, in our families, in our child welfare system, and family preservation, in recovery so badly. I don't know any of the families that I have worked with that haven't been touched by addiction. And keep bringing your medicine.